Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of ReWild and Maximize Life. My name is Sven Cron, and I'll be your host today. This week, we're actually going to be talking about how to add in the good food to your diet. So, if you've been following along here, we've learned about the history of food. We've learned about how to identify some good foods and where some of the good food that you eat, where you can find it. I'm actually going to go into it a little bit more in this one, but we're also going to talk about the kind of foods that you have in your diet that may actually be considered superfoods that would help take your diet to the next level. We'll be able to actually figure out what specifically you'll need in your diet, and I'll give you my recommendations for the best foods to actually try to add into your diet. So let me go ahead. We'll flip on over here to the webinar, and let's get started. Okay. So again, this is week 4 of the webinar series, ReWild and Maximize Life, brought to you by ReWild Your Health. This webinar series is brought to you by CrossFit Stanton. They're a really great, group of people here. There's a bunch of CrossFit gyms that have started coming up around here, and I still say that this group here is definitely the best. They are top of the line. All of their instructors are really smart. They're very helpful. They actually care about your goals. They're not just trying to get you to finish a rep or something like that. They want you to actually succeed, and they want you to reach your peak on your own time. Everybody here should definitely go check them out. Their website is there at the bottom. It's CrossFitStanton.com. You can also go check them out on Facebook and Instagram at CrossFit Stanton. So thanks again for hosting me here to these guys, but everybody should go check them out. So we're dissecting the cheat sheet that you should have gotten from me, and this week we're actually on number 4. We're halfway through now. So this one is called actually add in good sources. So this is step number 4 to achieve your ultimate health and how to maximize your life. This is step number 4. So I say the birthright for every human is to be able to adapt and thrive in any environment. That's what really has defined humans, and it is really something that I live by, that I think that for humans to reach their full potential, they have to be put in the right environment, but it is your birthright to be able to thrive in every environment. So before we continue, I want to make sure that you've got your downloads, because these are totally for you. These were made so that you can consume them. And these are the 2 here. The first one is from me. It's the 7 steps to correct, balance, and maximize your nutrition. It's my cheat sheet, and we're breaking it down right now. We're on number 4. And this one touches on how to take your health into your own hands. That's what I like to help people with, is how they can do it on their own. I try to help people understand that they don't need, tons and tons of like other people's help to really take health into their own hands if they don't want to. Of course, it is helpful, but you can do it by yourself. So no, you and your friends, anybody can get a totally free copy of this by texting the word ReWild to 44222. It's a totally free copy. Anybody can sign up for it. So if you like it, suggest it to your friends. The second download is from Briar Kalia. She's my partner, and she's written ReWild Your Diet. It's the 13 ancestral nutrition tips. So this is Briar's guide to having great nutrition, and it's very similar to this webinar. The stuff that she talks about in there, will be covered in here, but she's also very thorough in her ebook. Yeah, it goes over certain topics and is very in depth, very in depth. So you are in the right place. if you love learning about health and nutrition, well, of course, who doesn't, right? That's me. I love learning about health and nutrition. If you struggled to be healthy in the past, if you're overweight, if you've ever been sick, if you've ever been unhappy, you're in the right place. If you have a loved one who is in that same situation, they're unhealthy and you aren't sure where to start looking, what to do, where to get your information from, you're in the right place. If you just love food, if you are a food lover, if you're a foodie, if you love, any kind of nutrition, how food affects your body, you're in the right place. And this is a resource for food lovers of all walks of life. It's not just for the people at the very top or the people at the very bottom. It's for everybody. So this is what you'll learn today. You'll learn what makes a good meat or a good vegetable. So there's always a spectrum, and I'll go over that a little bit later, but I want to actually reiterate what it means to have good quality food and what a good vegetable and a good meat is. So I'll also tell you how you can find them, where you can go to look for them, and what else is missing from your diet. You're going to learn how to make your diet bulletproof. You're going to learn that you can take total charge of your health, and that you don't need to have other people to really be stewards for you. You can take it into your own hands. So by the way, I want to use this hashtag. If you have any questions for me, if you want to discuss your views with anybody else, just use the hashtag ReWildYourHealth, and we'll be talking about this stuff, over on Twitter and stuff. And if you have anything that you want to bring up, if you don't understand something, if you want to know how to do something else, if you want me to go further in depth, I'll be glad to do that. So here, I'm going to talk a little bit about me again. My name is Sven Kron. There's my Twitter handle at the top. It's @CrunkSven. And so there's me. So, I live in Virginia, and we had a really big snowstorm this past year. So here I'm up to my knees in snow. There's me with my daughter, and there is Briar, my partner. So who am I? I am the creator of ReWild Your Health. I've started a couple companies, but I have studied nutrition for years. Nutrition has been my focus for a very, very long time. Yeah, there's me studying nutrition. I decipher tons of information. I love learning about health. I'm always trying to get more information because I always want to know what it is that I don't realize, what I don't know yet. And I want to be able to implement everything into my own life. So I listen to podcasts, blogs, books, ebooks, online conferences, courses, seminars, coaching, documentaries. I listen to everything. I watch everything. I consume everything that I can. Anything that's relevant to nutrition, I consume, because it's very important for me to be able to understand everything so I can bring it to you. These are the type of people that I follow. In the top left is Daniel Vitalis. He's the real, I would say, patriarch of the rewilding movement. He's a very, very good source of knowledge, specializes more in the field of nutrition. On the top right is Ben Greenfield, another great source of information. He's a little bit more in the fitness and exercise science aspect of it, but he's another very good source. And in the middle on the bottom is Sean Stevenson. All these people have podcasts about nutrition and health, and there are definitely some good sources, but these are the type of people that I follow, and that's what you're going to get from me out of this webinar. So my goal is to distill all of this information for you. I'm going to break it down so that you totally understand it, and my goal is for you to be able to implement it. So I discussed my whole story in week 2. It was a couple weeks ago, and I went all the way from my childhood as an overweight child to high school, out of high school, and beyond, until now. And I tried everything to lose weight. I'd always been overweight. I weighed more in high school than I do now, and if you look at 10 years of just trying to figure out how my body works, plus the 20 years total just trying to experiment and figure out everything for myself. So, this is the short version. In school, I weighed more than I do now. I did work out, but I didn't see results. I didn't see that. I knew fitness had a lot to do with how your body works, but I didn't know if nutrition did or not. I didn't really understand that there could be a link there. Everybody had told me that it was my genes that was bad, and everyone told me that my genes were bad. I just got dealt a bad hand. I got dealt a bad, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just everyone was saying it wasn't my fault, and really it wasn't. I didn't even know it. So I've tried to rectify that. I've tried to take everything into my own hands. I've tried to really understand who I am and how my body works. And so, anyway, I came across veganism actually on the Oprah Winfrey show, and she was doing a challenge. So I decided to be vegan for a week, and it was just like, boom, I lost way more weight than I had in a very, very long time. And that actually led into, every other diet that you can imagine. I tried every diet to try to lose weight. It's been a lifelong quest, and a quest through my genome. My DNA, it says certain things, but I've actually found how I can change what my genes say, and I've been actually trying to understand how my genes work and how it affects my life. But anyway, today is about you. It's not about me. So a lot of people ask me where to start, and what really I say you should do when you start. This is how I start, and if I ever get off track and I try to get back on, this is how I have to go. Start simple and go big. So that means that I don't try to do everything at once, because that's just setting yourself up for failure. Even if you can do it for a short period of time, that doesn't mean that you should do it for an extended period of time, and you're just going to cause yourself to burn out, and then you're going to put yourself into a hole. So I want to explain what I mean by this. Nutrition can seem really complicated. It can be completely overwhelming, but really it's not. It's not as overwhelming and complicated as everybody thinks. You just need to start with one thing and move on from there. If you said you were going to learn one thing about nutrition a day, then you would, probably after a year, you would know more than most people know about nutrition. And so having said that, today's webinar is going to be information dense. I definitely suggest that if you're listening to this, you also go back and listen to all of the other webinars that I've recorded so far. They build upon this, and the information in here, it's not super complicated, but there's a lot of information. But trust me, I have faith that you can follow along. So let me first start with sourcing. So what is a good source of food? This picture here clearly has lots of good sources of food. So sourcing is a huge topic. There are books and courses just on how to source food. So a food source is actually the environment that it's grown in. And this means that your food and its nutrition depends on what your food ate. So the nutrition of what you're eating is going to affect your nutrition. So you need to know how it ate so that you know what you're eating. It also depends on what was put on it and where it lived. I'm going to list two examples here, salmon and wheat. And let's go a little further in depth with that. That's just kind of an overview that you want your food to be in a good environment because you want to be able to eat it well. But what does that mean? So to best illustrate this, let me show you salmon. So of course, I've got a picture here. On the bottom is a wild-caught salmon. On the top is a farm-raised salmon. So the wild-caught salmon, has a ton more of the red pigmentation than the salmon on top, because the salmon that's farm-raised actually does not get all of the nutrients and the antioxidants that wild salmon get. The antioxidant that actually causes this this pigmentation color, this red color in salmon, and the darker, that means it has more. It's the same with shrimp. It's the same with flamingos. When flamingos, they get their pink color from the shrimp and krill that they eat. So when they are fed the food that does not have this pigmentation, they don't turn pink. They stay white and gray. And that's what happens with salmon. Salmon turn gray, but if they have a lot of its antioxidant, they turn red. And it's called astaxanthin. So astaxanthin is a very powerful antioxidant. And, it says on a lot of farm-raised fish packages that it has color added, and that's what it means. They fed the fish astaxanthin to make the color in their skin and their flesh darken a little bit. So this is what I mentioned before. Everything is on a scale. You can't just have good and bad. It's not two. Everything, it's a spectrum. Everything is on this spectrum, at a certain place. And of course, it's more complicated. It depends on how your goals. This is an oversimplification, but there are many layers to this. So, farm salmon, the couple of things that you've got to think about when you're sourcing it is that it's going to have a lot of stress. I've got a picture here of a salmon farm, and look how crammed they are. They're going to be super stressed. They're going to have a lot of the cortisol flowing through them. It's going to actually change the taste of the meat when you're out hunting and say you shoot a deer and it runs away. It's going to be coursing with the cortisol that's released from its adrenal glands, and that's actually going to give it a stronger, gamey kind of flavor. If you're able to drop a deer, then it's not going to have as strong of a flavor. Corn, again, I said, okay, so there's a saying that you hear out there a lot. It's not that you are what you eat, it's you are what you ate. So if you get farm-raised salmon, most of them are fed corn because corn is the, commercial crop. Commodity corn is a very cheap source of food for people to get and to grow. So it's used quite a bit. It's a very efficient plant. So that's why it's used. But if you get like GMO fish, not GMO corn, then you're going to have those genetic modifications in the fish. And of course, in salmon, there are breeds of salmon that they have genetically modified so that they come of age, they get to adulthood twice as fast, in half the time. So that way they're actually able to monetize on the fish much faster. And it's a strange thing. I broke down GMOs in one of the last ones, so I'm not going to go into it, but salmon in the wild do not eat corn. So that's just something to keep in mind. The additives, I talked about the astaxanthin. You need to check the package to make sure it's wild caught. Plus, you got to look at the pictures or the coloring of your salmon to make sure that it's wild caught. So the color is an indication. I see lots of, and this is leading into the next section with wild salmon. When I go to the store, I look at all of the, if I'm going to buy fish, I look at all of them. A lot of times, there's going to be something that says farm-raised salmon. And yes, it's going to be that pink kind of color, like the peach, lighter, not a deep red. And it's like, obviously this is farm-raised. But if you look at some of the wild-caught salmon, sometimes it's just like bright, vibrant red. And that it is from the wild, but sometimes it looks a lot like the farm salmon. And so that's something you have to be careful. If salmon are farmed and then they're, quote, released into the wild and then caught, that means they're wild caught salmon, even if they were farmed their whole lives. So you have to be a little careful about the labeling, and that's why you should use your color as an indicator. So that's what I mean by ocean. You've got to make sure they actually come from the ocean. Atlantic salmon are ones that come from the ocean, go up into the rivers. In wild salmon, you do have to be mindful of toxins. That there are, higher levels of mercury, especially for animals that, or fish that are older. They tend to bioaccumulate stuff. That's how nutrition works. You bioaccumulate it. So if you eat something that has a lot of vitamin A in it, you're going to get vitamin A from that, and then you're going to store it. So then if something eats you, it's going to get vitamin A from you from that original thing. That's how it works. But it does it with mercury and toxins also. So mercury is a heavy metal. It's just something you've got to be careful of. If there's an oil spill, you probably don't want to get fish from that area. The meltdown that they had in Japan a couple years ago, that means that it released radioactive iodine into the water and, everywhere, but it would have affected the fish more because a lot of the protists, like seaweed and stuff, they actually use the iodine in their own processes, but the radioactive iodine would have replaced it, so then they would have actually become radioactive, and it could have caused DNA mutations because they're free radicals. When they go through their half-life, they damage the structure of your DNA, and you've got to make sure that salmon is truly wild, and the best way to do that is to look at the color. Yeah, so there's totally a lot to consider here. And the same is true of all meats. That was just specific to salmon, really, but it's the same with all meats. If you look at a cow, here's a Scottish Highland, or it's a very old breed of cow, and it's very distinctive from it's a really shaggy hair. It's short. The hair, of course, is red, and then it has horns. So things to consider with cows is the diet they eat. So they did not evolve to eat corn again. It changes the pH in the rumen, so then their bacteria strains in the rumen actually aren't optimal, and that's when you can get stuff like E. coli and other things in the cow meat that you buy at the store. But cows had evolved to eat grass, and so that's what they thrive on. RBGH, bovine growth hormone, so the same as human growth hormone. When you look at people who, are trying to get just like huge, if they take human growth hormone, they're going to get giant, and that happens with cows. They do that to actually make them go through puberty faster, and so that they get bigger, they get more mass, and so that means that they're more valuable. They're usually fed antibiotics, and again, the way that cows get their nutrition is from the bacteria in their rumen. So if they take an antibiotic, it'll change the bacterial density and the strains that are in their rumen and in their guts. So it'll make them less than healthy, which will make you less than healthy. If they're in CAFOs, they're going to be really stressed. If they're treated poorly, they're going to be stressed, and the same, that's going to affect the taste. I mentioned breed because there are some cows that aren't, the best cows to be eating. The Scottish Highland cow here is one of the better breeds, because it's an older breed, has older genome, its ancestry is older, and that means that it's going to be more nutritious and it's going to be healthier. So you also have to think of Holsteins. When I mentioned milk here, Holsteins were cows that were bred to produce tons and tons of milk, and they were bred to do that more so than other cows, and so they are more prone to getting stuff like mastitis, which is infections, and the pus can actually end up in the milk, and there's a lot to consider. You got to make sure that if you're getting milk, it's also grass-fed. If it's fed any kind of grains, it's a minimal amount. It's mainly grass-fed, and you can tell by the color of the milk. Of course, the milk will be white, but the cream will, the more green grass, especially when there's quickly growing green grass, very fast growing green grass, it'll actually pick up a lot of beta carotene, and the cows will convert the beta carotene into more vitamin A, but the beta carotene in the milk becomes more of an orange color. So if you cream or if you make butter, when you separate the milk fats, there will be a lot more orange in it. So chickens, again, another thing to consider. It's just these are examples of sourcing. So a chicken, I've got a picture here. This is not a chicken. This is a wild jungle fowl. This is what our modern chickens came from. And you can tell that it's not a chicken because look how vibrant the colors in its feathers are. It's got a very long tail. The comb on top, it's very rigid, pointed. It's strong. It's actually lifted off of the head. This is a very healthy, vibrant bird, and I bet it could be very strong. And our modern chickens are just white. Some of them are a little darker, but that shows how much they've been bred. So their diets, they're omnivores, they're not vegetarians. So again, if they're fed corn, it's not going to be the same. You know, they're meant to eat bugs and, you know, insects, all that kind of stuff, as well as, you know, plant matter. But their diet is a little less important than the cow's diet, but it is still important because it affects their eggs. You know, hormones, you got to make sure that there aren't any kind of hormones secretly added or antibiotics. You know, if they're confined, they're going to be stressed. If you get an older breed of chickens, then, you know, I'm not as familiar with chicken breeds, but if you get an older breed of chicken, they're going to be more nutritious. They're going to have more nutritious eggs. The eggs, you can actually look at and tell how healthy the chicken was from the egg. So healthy chickens are going to have really thick, hard shells, and they're also going to have yolks that are very bright colored. So if you crack 2 yolks, and if you want to see this, you can check out one of the other, I guess the last webinar that I did. I think I broke that down in there, and you can see that it's a pale yellow if it's a vegetarian fed chicken, but if you get a pastured chicken, it's a very bright yellow, like almost an orangish, and you can tell that the yolk stands up really high, so the membranes are very strong. The egg shell is very hard to break. You know, if you boil it, it's really hard to peel. I also wanted to mention wheat. You know, the same is true with wheat as it is with cows. So it's important to source your vegetables like you source your meat. For the best quality and nutritional density, you need to know what the soil's like and if the plants are sprayed or genetically altered. When you put fertilizer on plants, you know, there's 3 aspects. NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but you know, the soil needs like way over 50 different nutrients, like specifically for a plant, and you know, it's probably even higher than that, and it's not taken care of. That's not addressed with a lot of those fertilizers. So you need to know about the soil. Wild food is always going to be more nutritious than domesticated food, and it's because it's more nutrient dense. A lot of the domesticated foods have been bred to have less flavor or more sweetness, and the flavor is actually an indication of the nutrition. So when you reduce the flavor of something, like a bitter flavor, then you're going to be reducing the nutrition that it has. Local and homegrown foods retain more nutrition. They're usually healthier, but foods you get at the supermarket have been dead longer, and the longer that something's dead, the more nutrients are just lost from it. You know, as it ripens, it's going to lose more nutrients. So if you can eat something that is like freshly picked, you know, just eating like right out of the ground, that's the best example. But local foods are usually only, you know, they can even have been picked. If you go to a farmer's market, it could have been picked that morning. But if you go to the store, they're probably at least a week old. So here are a couple varieties of wheat. This one I have circled here in the middle, kind of on the right side, it's einkorn wheat. That is a very ancient, you know, variety of wheat. It's a breed that was found to have gone back to the beginning of agriculture, you know, 10,000 BC, but it was from an area in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. But this one is one that actually survived. You know, it's an ancient variety, and you can tell if that's the ancient variety, you can look at all of these different varieties of wheat that I've got here and just see like how different they all are and how much this wheat has been bred so that it looks like so many different kinds of things, you know. And then here is the wheat berries. So the einkorn wheat on the right, you know, you can tell they're a little smaller. They don't really have the grooves in them like this modern wheat is. You can tell the modern wheat has been grown to just be huge, and it's bigger than, you know, it had evolved. So it starts to get a little deformed, and it's a really big difference, you know, and it also affects other aspects that people didn't really consider, like the gluten content, and a lot of people are becoming gluten sensitive because there's just so much wheat. If you, I have, there are studies out there that say if you do introduce some gluten into your child's diet when they're young, then they will be more likely to tolerate wheat when they get older, or gluten. So this is why breed matters as much as the environment. So, of course, it still needs to be local and organic or beyond organic. If you're getting local stuff, the organic certification is difficult to get for a lot of farms. So they claim that they're beyond organic because they're still being organic. It's just they aren't able to get the organic certification. And wild varieties do have more nutrition. So I gave you another example here. This is corn. So on the top is what a variety of corn had come from. It's called teosinte on the top. And you can tell that, all right, that's the wild variety. And of course, that's even slightly bred because Mexicans, Native Americans, when they would have been selecting corn, they had gotten the kind that would give them the most kernels. And so it went from that on the top to that in the middle, where you can see little tiny kernels appearing, but it's like, man, that's a big step there. And then boom, look at the bottom. It's just like huge kernels. And that's what we eat today. So you can tell it is extremely bred. It doesn't even look like the beginning. You wouldn't have known if I hadn't told you that those were the same. Those were all from the same plant. So one more example of why breeds matter. These are the same species. This is the same animal. If you trace the genetics, it's the same animal. So on the left is Canis lupus. It's a wolf. And on the right is a Chihuahua. It's Canis lupus familiaris. So you could theoretically breed these two animals because they're the same species, but that is how bred humans have made all domesticated animals, livestock, plants, pets, like everything. That's how bred domesticated humans are. Modern day humans are domesticated. And if you compare us to our hunter-gatherer ancestors, it might not be this obvious to us, but that is the difference. So we really need to treat our nutrition with the utmost respect, and we need to make sure we source the best foods that we can, because do you want to be a wolf on the left or a wolf on the right, since they're both wolves? All right, so where can I find them? The food, that is, not the dogs. So to get the best sourced food, you can go to farmers markets. They're usually the easiest to get the best quality food from. They're the low-hanging fruit. Farmers markets. You can go to local farms. That's an even better option. If you grew it yourself, that'd be even better. If you foraged it yourself, that'd be the best option. You can get CSAs, which is kind of like, local farms or farmers markets, where you can pay for a farm to grow your food. You pay everything at the beginning of the season, and they just give you everything. They divide it up. It's like a share. They divide it up between everybody, and that's what you get. So co-ops are another good source. They're a little more health conscious than most of the other stores. Health food stores, they're doing a much better job. They have a lot more food now that you can eat that's good sourced, especially than they did like 5 or 10 years ago. And I'd say CrossFit boxes, that's one thing that CrossFit Stanton does here. And most CrossFit boxes do. You can set up a CSA here. You can set up a beef share. I'm sure some of them even have like cow shares and stuff. One aspect of CrossFit is the paleo diet, which it's not exactly like what I talk about here, but it's pretty similar, and it's very health conscious either way. So the CrossFit boxes around locally are one source of information, if nothing else. So find something you eat now and locate a better source of it. This is something that you can do today, this week. You find something that you eat and look at a better source. So if you eat, I don't know, just like, even if you eat, let me think of something, berries, strawberries, see if you can find a farmer's market that has strawberries, because it's coming in season now. I'm recording this in the spring, and our farmers markets just started getting strawberries. You can also go to a store, if you buy it at a store, and get organic strawberries, because berries are very heavily pesticided. Pesticided, is that a word? They are heavily sprayed, and they're one of the better things. If you're going to get anything organic, it should be them first. So start buying organic grains or fruit from the store. That's really the simplest and the easiest way to get started, because you don't have to do anything different. If you're still going to the store, you can just get a better quality food from buying the organic versions. And I usually say that if it has a skin on it, you don't necessarily have to get the organic kind. I mean, of course it'll be better, but if you're trying to save money somewhere, if you get like avocados, they've got a really thick skin, and the pesticides are going to be concentrated in the skin. So you can get conventional avocados. Stuff like sweet potatoes are okay because they're underground. Bananas. If you buy, or you should buy seasonal foods at your local farmers markets. Seasonal foods are going to be more nutritious, and they're usually cheaper. It's because there's an abundance of them. They're the ones who are usually picked that morning before the farmers markets, and they're cheaper. To be completely realistic, the budget is an aspect that you've got to think about, and getting local food is usually cheaper, and also seasonal foods are more cheaper. So if you're serious about improving your health, you need to try to start foraging some foods. That is definitely a way that you can start getting some foods. It's much easier than you think. You should be mindful when you're doing it, and you should try to pay attention to details. But if you are truly serious, then you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. No matter what you do, you're going to do a really good job. So again, I mentioned that right now it's spring, and what's coming up in the spring is the greens. That all around the country, there's going to be greens growing, all around the world. And a lot of them are very simple and easy to get. I've got a picture here of dandelion greens. You can get dandelion greens from your yard. I get most of my greens from my yard, so I just kind of walk around and see what's there. So what are seasonal and easy greens to forage? This is location specific. I'm going to talk about my location, and this is fairly general, so it's a pretty good way to get a good quality food. But I mean, a lot of this does grow around. A lot of these are invasive plants, and these really, honestly, they're going to be better quality than you'll get at the store. So the brassica plants are going to be the easiest to find, probably because they're very invasive, and they're pretty much everywhere. So that's dandelions, wild lettuce, wild cabbage, wild mustard, chicory, all of that stuff's in the brassicas. It's also the same genus as lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, collard greens, kohlrabi, all that kind of stuff. Green leaf lettuce, is romaine, cabbage, all of that stuff comes from this genus. Clover is one, sorrel, like wood sorrel. Plantain is a plant, not just a banana looking thing, and dock and burdock. So I did want to give you a couple examples for the diehard people who are going to go forage. Starting at the top left, there's dandelion, and of course everybody knows what the flowers look like. There's actually, if you pay attention, there's a lot of this mustard family stuff that has these yellow type flowers, and if you hadn't paid attention before, you might want to be a little mindful before you just go pick something with a yellow flower. The dandelions, usually there's a couple flowers coming up from one root because they've got a really big root, but it's just a single stalk, and it's a thick stalk. Some of them have really tall stalks that have 5 or 6 these yellow flowers coming off. That's not dandelion. Lettuce does that, and a lot of them, the other ones, do it too, but this one's dandelion. Its leaves are pretty distinctive. And then this next one here is lettuce, and I can't really tell from the picture, but it looks like it might be prickly lettuce. That's what grows around my area. The prickly lettuce is actually the lettuce that has spines down the middle of the leaves. And you can see these leaves look a lot like the dandelion. They're all from the same family. The wild mustard here has got kind of similar flowers. These are more like little florets, but it's very common. You see them in fields, you know, where it's just like a field grows tons of little yellow flowers. It's usually wild mustard. If it's not mustard, it's probably lettuce or cabbage. So clover on the top right, there's white clover and red clover. The red clover, the leaves are a little different shaped, but the white clover is the stereotypical three-leaf, I guess three-leafed clover is what it's called or something, because that's what the one that you can find four-leaf clovers. It's white clover, and it's in our yard. You know, wild lettuce grows in our flower beds. Dandelion grows in the yard. Wild mustard grows out in the fields next to our house. Down here on the bottom, on the left, is sorrel. This is wood sorrel. It's got little yellow flowers. The leaves look like clover leaves, except they're heart-shaped instead of just round, but they come in threes. In the middle is plantain there on the bottom. You can tell it's got very ribbed leaves, and it's very distinctive. So if you look through your yard, you'll more than likely have that too. It grows along our driveway, and when it seeds, this is what it gets. It gets those tall, like seeded stalks there. And then on the right here is burdock. Dock looks kind of similar to this. Burdock is bigger. They both have roots, and you can use the roots. But if you use the leaves, get in the very middle there, you can kind of see there's white, like tiny curled up leaves. Those are going to be a little better. It's usually best before the stems start to turn red, because they get more bitter after that. But burdock is another one, and that's more bitter. So if you think dandelion's bitter, or if you think kale's bitter, you're not going to like burdock. You'll have to work your way up to it. So again, don't forage unless you have a guide, you know, somebody or a resource that you can use, but it is easy to do. And identification is important before you eat it. Here, I showed this last week, but it's got some foraged greens in it here. I actually foraged some onion grass, you know. There's also plantain you can see on the left there with a little bit of clover. So is finding the right source enough for my nutrition? You know, is that the only thing that I need to think about? No, of course not. So here, I'm going to give you the 5 foods that can literally change your health. If you only started eating these 5 foods and didn't change anything, didn't start eating organic foods, nothing, this is going to have the biggest impact on you. And then here's a couple pictures here of them. I'm going to break them down individually though. So food number 1 is bone broth. You know, this is the top suggestion that I would give to you. It's a great source of amino acid. You know, it's got like taurine and glutamine, and it has a lot of collagen, and you know, it's just a really good source of amino acids for you, and a good source of fats for your body. It helps to fix your digestion. So it actually helps decrease intestinal permeability, and that'll help you absorb more food better. And it'll be best to add this in so that you can have healthier digestion. So if you're eating the best food that you can find, if you don't have good digestion, you're not actually going to be getting the nutrients you need from the foods. So adding bone broth is going to help with that. It makes your skin and your organs work better. Again, it has collagen in it, and you know, it has all the connective tissues. When they are cooked a long time, they actually start to liquefy and melt. And so that's pretty much what broth is. It's, you know, like the melted fat from the bones and the bone marrow and all that kind of stuff. So it actually can help you lose or gain weight depending on what you need. If you're overweight, it will help you lose weight. If you're underweight, it'll help you gain weight. It's a modulator in that sense. It has tons of vitamins and minerals, and it tastes great. Like, out of everything that I eat, broth is probably my favorite food. You know, I tell my wife my favorite food is actually chicken soup, you know, made with broth, and chicken soup that has a little bit of sauerkraut juice in it. That's my favorite food. Fermented foods, of course, are next. I mentioned sauerkraut juice. Sauerkraut brine is very strong fermented food. So they have a lot of vitamin K and B12. Eating fermented foods with other foods actually help you absorb their nutrients better because they can break down the foods, and then plus it'll have the vitamin K. Vitamin K is actually what tells the nutrients in your body to like where stuff should go and what it should do once it's in the bloodstream, so it doesn't just stay in the bloodstream. It directs the nutrition. It helps with digestion, of course, since it is pretty much digesting it for you. It helps take the stress off of your digestion. It can help rebuild your gut and your microbiome. I had just recently read that it does not by itself just repopulate your gut. It takes a very long time and a lot of diligence to repopulate your gut, but your gut pretty much is what you were born with, and that's why your appendix is very important, because it contains small amount, like a culture of all of your microbiome. So fermented foods, it makes foods easier, more easily absorbable because it breaks it down a little bit, and then it has vitamin K. It can help eliminate autoimmune conditions. If you've got allergies or eczema or something like that, you should eat fermented foods and broth, and it's very easy to make. So, organs, they're very high in the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K. Those are usually what people are deficient in. The beta carotene that you find in plants, your body will convert that into vitamin A, but it is a very ineffective process, and you don't convert very much. So, like if you eat a carrot, you're going to barely get any vitamin A at all. If you eat 10 carrots, it's probably just going to be a negligible amount still. So that's why you need to eat organs, and like liver. There's a picture of liver here. It's like a little bit of mint on top or something, but the liver has huge amounts of vitamin A in it, and it helps your organs function better. So it's kind of strange. A little common sense though. If you eat liver, it helps your liver work better. If you eat brains, it helps your brain be better. If you eat eyes, it'll help your vision. If you eat heart, it'll help your heart. That it's because the nutrients that are in your organs are also in other animals' organs. So when you eat those organs, your body will absorb them. And so it does make sense from that aspect. Gram for gram, I'd seen a quote where liver is the most nutrient-dense food, but I'm not sure if it is completely. I'll say it is one of the most nutrient-dense foods, and it prevents degenerative diseases, helps you detoxify, and that's because it strengthens your liver, your kidneys, all that kind of stuff. And liver actually helps you protect your RNA and DNA. So seafood is food number 4 out of these 5 foods. They're very high in healthy fats. They help protect and rebuild the brain if you have any kind of brain issues, or if you're growing a child. If you're pregnant, then you need to eat seafood because it helps with the development. It is very nutrient dense, and of course it has vitamins A and D. They're low on the food chain, so they eat the phytoplankton, and the phytoplankton has a lot of nutrient density, so they have a lot of nutrient density, and they contribute to healthy organ function. And food number 5 is a surprise here, insects. It's very high in healthy fats. It's extremely high in protein. Like pound for pound, crickets are like the largest source of protein in the world. Probably besides spirulina. I'd say spirulina probably has a little more. Plentiful, easy to get. Of course, you see bugs everywhere. I usually try to focus on something easy like crickets or grasshoppers. They have more nutrients than livestock does, and it's easier on the environment. So it takes like barely any water. They're even like, what is it? Mealworms, or there's an insect that actually produces water endogenously, so you barely even need to water it. So there was an experiment that someone had done. It was 2 researchers. They were trying to collect crickets using an ancient technique, and what they did is they put a bowl in the ground and they kind of masked it, but it was at the lowest spot in the area. And they were in the desert, and they stomped around and all of the crickets in the area actually got scared, and they tried to go to the lowest point, and they all went in this bowl. And it said that the first time that they did this experiment, they caught like, 12,000 crickets, and then the second time they caught 800. So it was like 2 tries they caught 2,000 crickets. It's crazy. Huge amounts of nutrition, though. So if you added these foods into your diet, you would truly become bulletproof, and that's not an exaggeration. So how can I do this? Bones are usually cheaper than meat, and they're easy to cook. Bones are one of those throwaway items that our society has. Organs are another throwaway item. It used to be that hunter-gatherers and traditional peoples would only eat the organs and the bones and not the meat, but we've kind of flipped that, and now we eat a lot of muscle meat. So fermented foods are very easy to make. Bones and organs are also really cheap. They're much cheaper than meat, especially if you're buying like steaks and stuff. Seafood is almost always in season, and it's really easy to get. You can get it anywhere, really. And crickets are just as easy to forage as dandelions. Like I said, you can go out and catch them in a jar, put the jar in the freezer, and then just put them in the skillet, and they'll turn red because they have astaxanthin too. They're in the same family as shrimp and lobsters and cockroaches and stuff. So if I had to pick one food from all of these to suggest to you, I would choose broth. Broth is the one that's going to have the biggest impact on you. So I'm actually going to share you a simple 3-step process to make chicken broth for you. So step number 1, just find a whole chicken. So you got to get a whole quality chicken, like I talked about before when you look at the wild jungle fowl. Just get a whole quality chicken. It's got to have bones and meat and stuff. Make sure that you've got a pot, like a stock pot or a crock pot big enough for the chicken. And you can get vegetables if you want, like carrots, onions, and celery is the stereotypical, there's a little bit of garlic and thyme, it looks like in this picture here, but it doesn't really matter if you add vegetables or not. The important thing is the bones and the collagen. So you boil the chicken. That's step number 2. You just take the whole chicken, you put it in your pot. If the pot's not big enough, you can cut it up and put it in there. You put all the vegetables in there, and you cook for 12 to 48 hours. That's about what I do. The time doesn't matter, but the longer the better. If you do 72 hours, it'll be even better. It'll get darker, and it'll break down more of the nutrients of the chicken and the vegetables and put it into the broth. So when you drink it, you'll get it. You need to add all of the chicken, the skin, the bones, the feet if possible. We go to a local farm and get feet, and seriously, we can get like a 2-pound bag of feet for like $1.50. And it actually adds a lot of gelatin to the broth, so it becomes gelatinous. So make sure you keep the onion skins on. And this is a good way to use vegetable scraps. If you have cooking scraps where you cut vegetables, you cut like ends off, or if it's an onion and you peel it, it's just a good way. You just stick it in the broth, and then you strain it and contain it. So you strain out all the vegetables and the chicken from the broth. You can add salt at this point if you want. You pour the broth into jars, and you can, either keep them in the fridge and use them, or you can freeze them. If you want to use the chicken, you can put it back in the soup if you want to eat it, or you can make chicken salad or something else if you want. You've got to throw out all the vegetables. You can throw out the bones if you want. If you're really diehard, you can eat the bones. Ben Greenfield had mentioned that he likes to he cooks his broth for about 72 hours, and then he takes the chicken bones and fries them and eats them, and eats the bone marrow. And ta-da, you've got bone broth. It's really easy to do. So really just try to make this once this week. It tastes great. Like, seriously, it tastes really good, and it's easy to cook and cook with. It's some of the best food to improve your health, and it can fix your gut, which will eliminate your allergies for spring. Because, again, spring in this area, a lot of people have lots of allergies, and if you fix your digestion, it'll eliminate your allergies. So if you have any questions about this, remember, you can use this hashtag to ask me any kind of questions you've got. If you've got questions about the broth or anything specifically, it's hashtag ReWild Your Health. And by the way, I just want to say that nutrition is awesome. I love it. It's a picture of me smiling. Nutrition can be the doorway to the life you want to live. You can have the health that you want, the body that you want, and the energy you want with the right nutrition, and everything gets better when you have better health. Once you get it, it's not as confusing at first glance. Like, really, it's not. Until you get your nutrition right, nothing is going to change. It's also true with health. Until you get your health right, nothing is going to change. But then once you change your health, everything will change. So this is the right place to start to change your nutrition. If this still seems daunting, look, I know it can. It really was for me when I started. It's very daunting. Make sure you tune in for all of these free webinars. And if you do, you'll be in the top % of educated people in this field. Or try to get some of these wild foods and crickets and really try to make your first batch of broth. You definitely should do that. Keep your journal, like I said. And ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer. But if things still seem confusing, you can put in the time and study everything that you can get your hands on. You can wade through all of the false promises of fad diets out there to find something that works specifically for you. Or you can tap into my years of research and investigation and quickly and easily get your specific meal plan with no headaches or confusion. I literally have years, like 10,000 hours of study in this. So the fastest path is through ReWild Your Health. And this is a very important quote. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. That's how I have made ReWild Your Health. So what is ReWild Your Health? It's the complete step-by-step program to correct, balance, and maximize your nutrition. It is the absolute fastest way to get from point A to point B. It is step-by-step, meaning that each step is laid out for you. There's no confusion or misunderstandings. You will end with a plan specific to you and your goals. You'll have a plan that is for you and you only. It's the difference between getting there in this car on the left where you hope it's going to start, and then the new Tesla Model 3, which will do it for you, and it'll be incredibly efficient along the way. So what is it exactly? It's a 12-module course. It starts where your nutrition and your diet is now, and it gets it to your diet goals. So if you're sitting on the couch eating pizza, that's where it starts. It starts on the couch with you eating pizza, and then it takes you from there. There's no ambiguity. Everything is laid out. It is simple to understand, and it's intuitive. It is the exact path that I've honed over the course of years and more than 10,000 hours, probably 20 or 30,000 hours of study and ongoing study. So module number 1, what does health even mean? It's the internal and external factors that can change your health. You will go farther in depth about this topic. You'll discover all of these factors that can be your downfall, or you can make them your strength, and I'll show you how to do that. You can start your personalized health plan, and you'll start it by yourself. So module number 2 is what should you feed a human in a zoo, how you should eat, and what your genes are telling you. So find out how humans evolved to eat, and this will really surprise you. How diets can cause different levels of health so that you know how to become the healthiest that you can, the healthiest version of yourself, how to apply these lessons to modern day life. It's not just an abstract like, hey, this has a lot of nutrition, this has a lot of vitamin A. It's like how you can apply it to your life. Module number 3 is the easy way to find plants. It's the steps to sourcing the best food in the planet. Again, I will go incredibly in depth, and much more in depth than I did in this webinar about this stuff. You'll learn why sourcing your food can automatically create the life you want, just by itself. Get specific instructions on how and where to find this food and to find it cheaply. And this includes more than just plants. It includes bacteria, fungi, and produce. And these are the superfoods that you never hear about. So the easier way to find meat is module number 4, the process of acquiring better meat for less money. Learn about what is important for finding good quality meat. Where should the emphasis of your money be placed? That's one thing that I try to show you, that it can be cheap, but you've got to put your money in the right places. And it's how you can also relieve the burden from your wallet. Module number 5, raise your sources to the next level. This is the 5 steps that you need to get the quality you deserve. Learn the 5 steps to getting way better food than you can get from the store, and no one tells you this. No one tells you this. You can save even more money, It's crazy. So Module number 6, level up your life. This is the 5.5 foods, yeah, that's a half, that change your life. These are the true superfoods that only the top nutritionists even know about. Just this section can give you the life you want. And look, this is what we talked about in this section. I gave you 5 foods that'll change your life. You know, the extra half is the cherry on top. It includes the best way to get the most nutrition from your foods, and I've thrown in a couple extra foods in there. Module number 8 is the number 23, why this number makes you do everything. And I'll let you in on a little secret. This is about your genes, your 23 chromosomes. So discover information on the cutting edge in the field of nutrigenomics. It's the science of how your diet affects your genes. Learn why your DNA is set in stone, but your genes can change throughout your life. Module number 8, the cake is a lie. Why you slip up and why it's okay. Understand how to deal with stress and setbacks. It's the psychology of eating. Learn why you can cheat. I don't like to use the word cheat, but why you can cheat and how you can stay on track. Create your mindset to achieve your goals, and this can help in all aspects of your life. I'll help you develop a better mindset around food. Module number 9 is the nutrition of water. How just one thing can make 99% of your molecules. You're 70% water by volume, but you're 99.9% water by molecule. Find out how you can be made from the purest substance on earth, and you won't get this anywhere else. You know, it's the substance that has not seen the light of day since agriculture started in the world. Learn that not all water is created equal. Source your water like you would your food. So what goes beyond nutrition is module number 10, the 7 techniques to get more out of your food. Why these 7 techniques should be taught as a kid. They make all the difference for your food. Master the art of eating and cooking just from watching me. Module number 11, your specialized health plan. It's the plan that best fits your life, and it's made by you. Become the architect of your life. By this point, you will have made your own personalized health plan. This takes into account everything from your goals to your genes. Module number 12, the last module. Now you know everything. What next? How your knowledge can expand and where to go from here. So you will not need my help. Once you've taken this course, you'll not need my help to make your nutrition decisions. You'll be as much of an expert as I am. And where you can go to keep learning it, the kind of stuff that I search out, you know, that I listen to, that I get my information from, I'm going to tell you. And it's tactics for telling whether the information you come across is true for you. You can vet it. So how much will it cost me? Look, you could spend 10,000 hours or more, like I did, you know, to learn and decipher all of this information. You can hire a personal coach for probably upwards of 15,000 really. You can pay thousands and thousands trying to find something that might work. But look, it won't cost you thousands. I'm giving everyone on this webinar a pre-launch discount. You'll pay half of the launch price. You can get started now for just $250. And look, I want to reemphasize what you get with this. Absolutely everything in this course comes with this. You know, you're not going to get just part of it with the pre-launch special. You're going to get everything. And I want you to have as many resources as possible. So you'll get your very own copy of your health plan that you make, the food journal that will help keep you on track, a recipe book that'll include pictures, and a course book. You'll get access to tons of videos. You'll get audio, PDFs, video, and look, way more downloads of your course for wherever you want. And you can learn any time of the day. You can download it for later. Some more free bonuses. You get access to an exclusive Facebook page, you know, for you to ask for support and have your questions answered. You know, I'll do weekly Q&A calls where I answer your questions from the Facebook group and from where the emails that come in. You get a course planner that helps keep you on track. You'll get your awesome tools guide. And this is exactly what I use for making all of my food. Plus, you get a 60-day money-back guarantee. So that means you get 12 epic modules for success. You get your personalized health plan, a food, mood, poop journal, a recipe book with pictures, a complete course book, tons of awesome videos, audio, video, and text downloads, exclusive Facebook page access, weekly Q&A calls for your questions, a course planner for success, the awesome tools guide, and a 60-day money-back guarantee, plus a lifetime access to everything you see here. All you've got to do is visit course.rewildyourhealth.com/presale. And really, this is the best way for you to take nutrition into your own hands and to get the help that you want. If I had had a resource like this when I first started, you know, I would have loved that. That would have helped me so much. I wouldn't have had to spend years and years and years to really figure this out. It's all laid out for you, and it's definitely, you know, going to be something that is really valuable to you. You know, I really wish that I can help you, and I can answer all your questions. I've been studying this for years, and I want to be able to be there to help you. So, all right, look, this is the adding in the good sources of food is definitely a really big topic. It's a really thorough topic to try to cover for you to understand. And again, I'm here for your questions if you need them. Just if you have any kinds of ideas or something, or you want to ask me anything, make sure you go to my Twitter and you can use the hashtag ReWildYourHealth and ask me some kind of questions that you need. I'll be here to really help you. Make sure you tune in to all of the upcoming webinars that I have. If you've missed the last ones, make sure you go to rewildyourhealth.com/replay, and you can watch the overview of the first webinar that I did, and that'll really set you on the right course, and it'll help you understand, put everything that you've seen here into context. Thank you for everybody who has chosen to be here with me today, and I really hope you've gotten a lot of value out of this. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and thank you for joining.